Well, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. Today, I have the pleasure with Marty Gilbert, who's the founder and CEO of NSENG. And NSENG is actually a North Shore executive networking group. North Shore is the most affluent area of Chicago. It's the North Shore of Lake Michigan. He runs a networking group along with offers coaching. It's an extensive and very detailed website when you go to it. I really look forward to having him here. Thank you for joining us, Marty.
Great. Thanks for having me.
And where are you calling us from specifically? I know I gave away the North Shore, but where specifically are you?
Yeah, I'm up in the northeastern suburbs of Chicago, but we are a global business, just so people understand that.
Yeah, but anyone that's not been to the North Shore, you guys, it's gorgeous. It's the houses up there, like Glencoe. Are you like Glencoe and?
Yeah, a little bit north, just north of there.
Just north of there? Oh, okay. It's a gorgeous area and a great place to network, by the way, too.
Yep.
The people that are there, a lot of old money there. Now, did you grow up in the North Shore?
Yeah, I grew up in the Evanston area. In fact, Northwestern campus was just a couple miles from where I grew up.
Oh, wow. It's gorgeous. Evanston's gorgeous.
Yep.
You specialize in helping people find jobs primarily, correct?
Yep. So I started my trip. I got off a plane in Iceland. I was the only person to get off the plane. Everybody was on their way to Luxembourg, but they made a stop in Iceland. That was the cheapest way to get to Europe back then. And went from Iceland to, I spent a month in the UK, in England and Scotland, and then Central Europe for, about 3 or 4 months, and then spent a month in Spain, 3 weeks in Morocco, a month in Italy, 5 weeks in Greece, and then ended my trip in Israel, and then came back to the States, and then started working, in the advertising space. I worked for a Chicago advertising agency for a year, and I then ended up moving to Japan. The largest advertising agency in the world is a company by the name of Dentsu. And each year every year or two, they hire one foreigner to come on over in their world headquarters in Tokyo. I answered the ad, and along with about 30 other, potential candidates, I was the youngest of the folks that they interviewed, and they conducted interviews in LA and New York. I was the last candidate to be interviewed, and then I ended up getting the job. And I ended up getting the job in part because I was lacking 10 years of a minimum of 10 years of experience that they were looking for. But my travel experience in Europe really impressed them, because they had you have to understand, Dentsu at that time was a company of 6,000 employees, but only 5 non-Japanese. So I was going to be one of only 5 non-Japanese people in this company. They were impressed with my European travel, because they had hired foreigners in the past. And after a couple weeks, the foreigners came to them and said, "Look, I can't live here. I can't work here. It's too foreign. There's no English being spoken. Everything is in Japanese. And of course, the culture is just so dramatically different." And that for me was a huge attraction of the job. That's what I was looking for. So I ended up, living there for about 2.5 years. And all of our clients were every Japanese company you could name. I helped introduce to the world some pretty famous products at that time, like the Sony Walkman, the VCR, the microwave oven, and of course, all the car and camera.
This is the 80s when you're doing this.
Yes, yeah, early 80s, late 70s, early
80s. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so all this technology was coming out of Japan, and everything I wrote appeared as full-page ads in Time, Newsweek, Business Week, Fortune magazines. There was no internet. There weren't even fax machines back then. So I built up a great portfolio, and when I left to come back to the States, I decided to travel around China and Southeast Asia before I came back, because I had started my MBA. I was interested in finishing it, and Loyola gave you 5 years to complete it. So I took a long road back, went as far north as Nepal and hiking in the Himalayas, as far south as Bali, and spending a couple of weeks there. And, for 4 months, I traveled around Southeast Asia, and it was phenomenal. Richard Nixon had just opened up trade between the U.S. and China about 9 months before I entered. And so there were no foreigners there. And the only ones that were there were very elderly people who could afford to go. So.
And how tall are you?
I'm 6'3".
You look like you are. So you must have been a giant over there.
Especially in Japan, because I played a lot of sports, And I played a lot of baseball when I was in Japan. The Japanese are crazy about baseball. And I got even active in softball. I played 12-inch softball. I got selected to Japan's national all-star softball team while I was there. I mean, on my weekends, I would play ball either in Dentsu's club where they had ball, or during the week at all these different companies that had their own teams. And at the end of the season, they selected one player from each team. So I was selected from the team I played on, and we played other teams in other parts of Asia in softball. So it was a phenomenal experience. I have so many stories that I can share with folks. But I built up a great portfolio of writing. And then I came back to the States, finished up my MBA, and went to work for Motorola, who at the time was trying to crack into the Japanese market. So I helped them to understand what it would take to actively sell and be accepted into that market. And of course, it became a very big business opportunity for the company. And I helped them get into a lot of developing countries like India and Brazil and other developing nations. But I ended up staying with Motorola for 15 years, and I had a great career.
Wow. So you started them what, you were like 26, 27? How old were you?
Yeah, I was about 26, 27. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was great. I mean, it was great. The company was fantastic. When I entered Motorola, there were, we had $3 billion in total revenue, and only 5% of that revenue came from outside the United States. When I left the company 15 years later, they had grown from 3 billion to 30 billion in annual sales, but their international business had grown from 5% to 55% of all of the revenue that being generated in the company. And the largest portion of that revenue was coming from the part of the world that I was spending my time on, and that was Asia. And so things really blossomed. And this was, I tell people, I got Motorola's best years. And so I decided to leave because I wanted to go see what life was like working in a mid-size, or smaller firm where I could be a bigger player and have a lot of impact. And so I ended up running a sports information company here in the Chicago area by the name of Stats Incorporated. Now, for your listeners, anybody who has either read the book or seen the movie Moneyball, it's about baseball, starred Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill. It's about the company that I ran, Stats Incorporated. We were the company behind the scenes that was providing all of the data and analytics to the Oakland A's baseball team back then to help them find undervalued players who were not expensive but could make a very significant difference. In the
so you, at that time, were working with Billy Beane and the gentleman that Noah played? Yeah.
And so the kind of things that Stats does and did, that was a small portion of what they did. What their real, claim to fame is that they are the largest provider of all the sports data to every fantasy sports game around the country. All the sports broadcasts, like we provided the color commentary to John Madden for NFL Game of the Week. For all the Major League Baseball and every baseball box score and every newspaper across the country came and started with a Stats Incorporated sports reporter. So we were very big in the data and analytics, and we were oftentimes brought into arbitration cases between either representing the owner or the athlete. On any given day, we could help sway the
providing the stats of what you should or how you're not performing or how you're performing. It's just like how you're looking at the numbers, right? Depending on who you're defending.
Right. We had numbers that the athletes and the teams didn't have. So
how did you have that though? You would need how did you do it? How did you compile it?
What the company did was we employed a lot of college students.
Okay.
We would, for example, in a baseball game, there's so much data that you have to collect. And no one person cannot do it by themselves.
Correct.
We'd put one person in the press box of the game.
Okay.
We'd have two other people sitting in front of the TV with our with laptops and our interface, so that they would each collect different pieces of the game.
Yeah.
And then it would all come back into our centralized database where we could do all the analytics ourselves. And so any student goes, wait a second, you're going to let me sit in the press box of a St. Louis Cardinal game or a New York Yankees game, and you're going to pay me $15 to do that?
Yeah.
Sure, I'm in. And so, but you have to realize, oftentimes we had three sports and sometimes four all going on simultaneously, and these leagues could have 20 games going on at any given time. So it was a real logistical and operational challenge. But that's
because you were keeping the stats of all the different teams in all the different leagues. What were you doing? The 4 major sports? Were you doing hockey, baseball?
Yeah, baseball, basketball, football, and hockey. The company has since gotten into some other sports like Major League Soccer.
And so it's still doing it? This company is still doing it?
Oh, yeah. We got acquired by Fox TV. I left.
Okay.
And then I went back to Motorola for a few more years, and the company was in a very different place economically. And I ended up running a very large team of folks for 4 of the company's businesses. And then I left and started working for mid-sized firms, particularly that were private equity owned. And then it was about 15 years ago.
Okay.
When I was I have switched jobs many times throughout my career. I don't know that I've met many people that have switched as often as I have.
You have? You seem to have a bit of a nomad sense to you.
in spite of the fact that I spent 18 years of my career with one company. But
Motorola, correct.
Once I left Motorola, I was changing every few years, and I was able to adapt to a lot of different industries and learn rather quickly. And so I was in one of my job searches, and I pulled together 5 other people who, like myself, had really good careers, but for whatever reason, were in a job search. And what started with a group of 6 today has become the largest job search group in the United States. And NSENG has got over 12,000 members. We have had more than one member landing a new job every day of the week for the past 7 years. I've helped over 3,000 people, professionals. I mean, I'm talking about mid and senior level people to land their next job because of the coaching that I do, the webinar recordings, the workshop recordings, and the live events that I do. And we have been able to adapt the business. I run everything myself. Okay, I'm a company of 1 employee, so you
do all the coaching. You don't have coaches underneath you.
I do it all myself. Now, I have created an e-commerce engine inside my website where people can come in at any point in time of the day or night and purchase my 90-minute recordings, my 3-hour workshop recordings, or my coaching packages. And then I do one-on-one coaching where, I'm spending time, catering to very specific needs that, my clients would like me to assist them with. And it can be anything from writing their value proposition, critiquing their resume and LinkedIn profile, helping them, learn how to write highly tailored emails in less than 10 minutes to any given job or any company, how to understand how to use LinkedIn and overcome the algorithms, and how to build out target company lists. I mean, I've got a laundry list of about 20 things that I can help people with, including interviewing. So this business, I decided to leave the corporate world about 8 years ago and spend full time doing this. And what for me has been really nice is that I did this entrepreneurial activity gradually. I didn't up and quit my job and then say, I'm going to start up a business. That's tough for anybody.
That is.
It is. And of course, you've got to have the financial fortitude to provide you with a soft landing if things don't work out. Right. But I was able to do this 15 hours a week outside of my full-time job where I was working 50 hours a week. So and then I just decided at a given point in time, I've had enough. I'm at a point in my career where I don't need to be working for anybody, and I don't want to. And I decided to spend all my time doing this, and it was probably the best move I've had in a long time, because I'm doing the most important work that I've ever done in my career.
Yeah, you are. You really are, Marty. And if you hadn't had all the experiences you did with mid-sized to large corporations, you wouldn't be able to help people with what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You can't read it in a book. You've got to experience it and the different experiences you've had.
And this is exactly why I can be a company of 1. Because I know and understand finance, operations, sales, marketing, all of the different aspects of business, because I have had responsibilities leading them and growing them. And so for me, this transition was a very natural one. And I'm doing something that really makes a difference in the world and people's lives and something that I just have a really strong affinity toward, because giving back to folks, and believe me, I know what it's like to feel as an unemployed individual. So many people go through really rough times emotionally.
Yes.
The stress is overcoming, and so I really empathize with what they're going through. But more importantly, I can help them get out of that funk and land their next job a lot quicker through the different kinds of services that I offer.
Now, do you find yourself dealing primarily with people that are currently employed looking for a different job, or people that are unemployed? What's the ratio that you deal with?
I'd say that about 90% are unemployed people.
Okay.
I think one thing that a lot of folks forget about, and because we know that today the unemployment is about 4%, which most economists will tell you that means no unemployment. Right, 4% has always been a given, so it's very, very low. But what most unemployed individuals sometimes forget is that the number of employed people that are currently looking for jobs can be 30% or more.
Yes.
Because so many people are in a job they don't like.
Correct.
And they want to make a move. So
Correct.
The competition is not just the other unemployed individuals, but it's a lot of employed people who are looking for a better opportunity for themselves.
Yeah.
And it's always safer to be looking for a job when you have one.
Of course.
This is a really tough time, particularly given what's happened economically here in the United States, and the tariffs and all of the unanswered questions that exist. So many companies are being much more cautious this year than they have been in previous years, because they're not sure how long these changes are going to be in effect.
Yeah, the tariffs, meaning, and by that, are you primarily meaning like, is manufacturing going to come to the U.S.? Is it not? Is that what you mean in regards to that?
Anybody who's not in a service business is affected essentially by the tariffs, because the United States provides only a fraction of the parts, materials that are eventually going to be a finished product. We rely on so many companies for those things, and if they're going to be tariffed at anywhere from 10 to 50%, well, in some cases more, the cost of those goods goes up dramatically, which means the price is going to go up, and the demand for a higher priced product, which only months ago was selling for 30% less, the demand's going to be less.
When do you think we start really seeing those effects? Because the tariffs haven't even hit the products that are currently here, or not allowed.
It's just starting, but I think we're in October right now.
Yeah,
it's possible that we may see some of it during the Christmas time. All depends on whether or not those companies made their purchases for them in advance, right? Because we know, like the toy manufacturers, they have to place all their orders in May for December. If they haven't paid for them yet, or haven't negotiated the final price yet, they may be looking at a lot of goods that they may not want to have. So so we'll look for the impact probably end of the year, or sometime during the first quarter of next year.
First quarter next year is when I think the result. My solar company we've had to extend commercial projects because we need to get the benefits that you're supposed to get. Domestic panels need to be used. I see the benefits of them if the manufacturing really is going to come, but are they saying it's going to come, or is it really going to come? That's the whole question for me.
For most of these companies, particularly tech companies, it wouldn't come for 10 years or more.
Exactly.
You can't set up an operation overnight or within a couple of years. You just can't do it. And quite honestly, the kinds of job that our government is telling people, Americans, want those jobs. No, they don't. They don't want to be working on an assembly line. Those kinds of jobs are being filled today by people who want them and need to have them. And the average American who works in a manufacturing environment isn't interested in that kind of work. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, we're going to have to see where that ball rolls beginning of next year. I'm interested to see that myself with one business. Now, I was reading, so the network itself, okay, so you've got your own coaching, which is very well defined on your website. You do a great job of that, by the way, of explaining exactly what you give everybody for the price. So is the network, what is the point of the network for people to find jobs through the network? Because it's such a large network. What is the point? Is it like a big Facebook group, basically? Is that easier way of saying it?
So today there's about 12,400 members in the group. I've got an active LinkedIn group, which is the environment where people can interact with each other. But I do hold live events. When I was doing them live, I would get 150 people here on the north side of Chicago attending these events. When the pandemic hit, I moved everything onto the Zoom platform. Okay, yeah, I've stayed there, and so that's another venue for people to interact with one another. And of course, anybody who's a member of the group is welcome to go, and we network with other people in the group. Okay, some of a large number of which may be unemployed, but I've got over 3,000 people that have landed jobs. So there's a good mix of those people that are employed and those that aren't. So so the networking aspect is really, it can be ongoing with other members. It can be at the events, and of course, separate and apart from that are the services offered through two different forms of coaching. One is coaching packages, that is pretty much a hands-off, low-cost solution that you see on the website, and the alternative to that is one-on-one coaching, where I'm actually doing all the work for them, and it's a.
Do you mind going through the first package to the second package and just briefly explaining them?
Yeah, so in terms of coaching, and just so you know, the webinar recordings are all $20 each.
Okay.
Those are 90 minutes in length.
Okay.
There are 19 of those on all different aspects of job search. The workshop recordings are 3 hours each, and one of the three, of course, is my trademark "What the Hell" approach to job search.
Yeah, I want to get into that.
So we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
And then the third piece of what I do is coaching, and there are three different flavors. One is I've got coaching packages, and they are tiered. There's bronze, silver, and gold. And with each one, you get a job search coaching plan. It's about 16 pages long. You get some of my time, and you get access to recordings, different number of recordings, and different amounts of my time, depending upon whether you want bronze, silver, or gold. You get 30 minutes, 60 minutes, or 3 hours. So those are the packages. And again, it's a low cost, somewhat hands-off solution because it only involves a limited amount of my time.
Yeah.
The alternative to that is one-on-one custom coaching, where I'm actually going to do all the work for you, and we're going to have a lot more interaction, and it's tailored to whatever your needs might be, whether it's your resume, LinkedIn profile, how to network more effectively, how to beat the applicant tracking system that a lot of people are struggling with, and interviewing and other things. And then there's the third approach to coaching is a hybrid model. You can mix and match. You can say, I want to start off with a coaching package, and it's great. It can be low cost, but I do on occasion have people come back to me after, listening to all of those recordings. And as a result, I've completely redone my resume and my LinkedIn profile. Could you now critique them? Sure. So that would be customized as opposed to, the coaching package, and you can kind of interrupt between them, which is nice. So there's a lot of flexibility. So that's how the coaching is done.
Okay. Now I want to go into detail about, because I looked at your 3-minute video about the What the Hell approach, and you've got the 3 steps of the cover letter, the ATS that you just mentioned, and then the hidden jobs. Okay. So the cover letter is pretty self-explanatory, but go ahead and explain what you mean by that, because I want to get into the other 2 more in detail, if you don't mind.
Okay, and just so you know, there actually are 13.
There are 13. Oh, I saw 3 on the video.
In the recording, I cite 3 as real quickly as examples, and real detailed. But and just so your listeners know, the What the Hell approach is based on the premise. What the hell do you have to lose by doing things that other job seekers aren't doing? Because the name of the game is visibility, and you don't get it by simply applying to online ads and hoping for the best.
Like everybody else.
Exactly, and you can't look and act like everybody else. So that's what this is about. So you ask about the email cover letters. So a lot of job seekers don't write them. In fact, 2 out of 3 don't. And the reason they don't is because they tell me it takes them anywhere from 1 to 3 hours to tailor each one to a given job, for example. And what I do in that, and I've got the recording, it's called Resumes Tell, but Cover Letters Sell, because cover letters open the door in a way that a resume and a LinkedIn profile can't, because it's the one opportunity you have before you meet somebody to actually control the story. Because you decide what you want to share with them in this cover letter. And I teach people how to write highly tailored email cover letters in less than 10 minutes. And so time is no longer an obstacle. and tailoring is important. And so I teach people how to do this. So that's the email cover letter piece of this. What was the other one you had mentioned?
Yeah, well, the other two, like the second one, when you're talking about the ATS system, how to surpass it, how to get around it.
Sure.
How do people get around it, though? I mean, I know you're going to train people to do it, but it seems to me like the reason why so many people do it, because it's the only option that employers give. You're talking about, you talked about talking to the managers directly. Well, if that was available, everybody would be doing it. You know what I mean? So how and again, I haven't been an employee, I haven't gone look for a job in 25 years. So
sure.
I'm ignorant to all of this. So I'd love to hear what your information is.
Sure. So it is available to everybody, but most people are intimidated to do just that. Okay. Everybody thinks that HR and talent recruitment have all the jobs.
Yeah.
They don't have any jobs. They own no budget. They have no decision-making authority, and they have little to no influence when it comes to deciding who gets a job.
Yeah.
The authority and the power and the budget sits with the hiring manager and that person's peers, other people that are going to be involved in the interview process. And so I tell people, if you're really serious about looking for a job, talent recruitment is the last place to go. You got to find the right people, and you can find them all if you know how to use LinkedIn. And this is where I have a huge advantage over the average person who has a profile on LinkedIn, because I've got 30,000 LinkedIn connections. And so when I go on to LinkedIn looking to find certain kinds of people or certain companies, my results are very significant, certainly more than the average person. But you have to be able to uncover the features in LinkedIn that most people don't know about. And most job seekers only know about 30 or 40% of the power of the platform. Mm-hmm. So you can do filtered searches by industry, by geography, by specific companies. And as a result of doing these filtered searches, you can find the people in the firms that you want to make yourself visible to. Mm-hmm. And so instead of applying online and then hoping that the applicant tracking system finds enough keywords in your profile to, give you a potential phone screen, I tell people you go around that, because it's just a piece of software. Mm-hmm. It doesn't get a vote unless you allow it to get a vote. Mm-hmm. And I tell people I'm not telling you not to apply to online ads. You can, but that takes all of 2 minutes to apply. Yeah. What you need to do is you need to now take this customized cover letter that I've shown you how to write within 10 minutes and now send it out to people that are in the sphere of influence. And that might be the hiring manager and maybe 4 other people. Mm-hmm. And all you got to do is to get one of them to do the right thing. And when you are sending it to 4 and 5 or more people inside a firm, your chances of getting that one of them, at least one, to do the right thing go up astronomically. And the right thing is they take that email and they send it over to the hiring manager. And this happens all the time. And if they don't send it to the hiring manager, they're probably going to send it to the talent recruiter who's trying to fill that position, which is oftentimes a very junior person in the company. And when that person gets that email from somebody who's more senior than them, they think, you know what, he's telling me that I should be interviewing this woman. So there's lots of ways to play on the psychology of this whole thing. But this is where you start to get traction and you get interviews that you typically will not get if you're acting like everybody else and just applying online and hoping that they like you.
Now, do you show them how to do that algorithm in one of the packages? Is that where you
yeah. Resumes tell, but cover letters sell. I give them specific examples on how to write it, and I show them finished product. And so anybody who views it will be able to, very quickly be able to write these customized cover letters very quickly. And it doesn't have to be a separate document. It's essentially the email with an attached resume that you send out to 6 or so different people inside a firm. It also gets you into, as you mentioned, I think the third piece was the hidden job market.
Correct. I wanted to get into that next.
Yeah. Yep. So at any point in time, there are a lot of different data points, but somewhere between 50 and 70% of all the jobs are hidden. They aren't advertised on LinkedIn or Career Builder or Indeed or any of these other websites. They're sitting in someone's head. Mm-hmm. Or in some cases, companies have made intentional decisions not to advertise their jobs, but rather to rely on their own employees to make referrals. Mm-hmm. And if somebody makes a referral and that person ends up getting hired, they're happy to pay that employee $1,000 to $2,000 for their effort.
Right.
Their effort is nothing. It's just taking a resume and sending it on. And so this is where getting connectivity on the inside a company, and building up advocates, or one advocate inside a company, where you can get the visibility and credibility from the person who's referred you to potential jobs. Now, you can do this by also going after jobs that are not advertised. I tell people, one of the things you have to do up front with your job search is that you've got to create a target company list. We do this with every new product we introduce, and I've done it with a lot of products that I've had the opportunity to introduce. You can't make a product that everybody needs, and there are very few exceptions to that rule. An example would be toilet paper and Kleenex. Everybody needs them, right? They are the exception. Most products appeal to certain segments of the market, whether it's by age group or by job function, any number of different things. And the same is true for a job seeker. You're going to appeal to certain kinds of companies, oftentimes by industry. And so you have to develop a target company list by industry. It creates focus around your job search. And so I tell people, it's really important to send out this outbound email, essentially an email campaign, to 5 or 6 people inside every company that's of interest to you, whether they have a job or not. Because oftentimes you can create a job for yourself.
That's where the hidden job part comes in.
Exactly.
It's picking the company you want to work for, and then showing them who you are with your cover letter and your resume and your LinkedIn profile.
The odds are no longer 300 to 1. They're now 1 to 1, because other job seekers aren't doing that. Right. They aren't going after these firms. They're all going after the shiny object, the online ad. And that's where all the action is. And that's why people will tell you, when there's a good job that's put on LinkedIn, it's not unusual for there to be 300 applicants within 2 hours. Within 2 hours. That's how starved people are for certain types of jobs. And that number only increases over time. So applying to those kinds of jobs, easy. But I just feel
easy,
like
but also very low percentage of getting.
Very low odds of you even getting an interview.
Even getting looked
at. Best qualified. The best qualified, the most qualified individuals oftentimes don't even get interviews.
Correct.
Because they're resume number 180. Exactly. And the company cut it off at the first 50 and decided, okay, if we don't get 3 or 5 different candidates that we think are qualified, then we'll open it up.
And we'll look at the other ones.
Another 50 or 100. So you've got to be fast, but this way, the speed is not as important if you get get visibility with the right people inside the firm, who then, for all intents and purposes, become your champion. And people are willing to help, particularly when it's an employee inside that company who says, I could make $2,000 if I just put this person's name into the hat and they get hired. And anybody who is referred by an employee always gets preferential treatment over a lot of the other applicants.
Of course. Now, also, with you doing this as long as you said 8 years that you've been doing this? 15. Well, you've been open for
8 years ago. I came in full time. Yeah.
Right. That's what I meant. Yeah. So if you've been helping as many people as you have, and one person a day, you must already know a lot of the people in these companies that are hiring. Correct? Yeah. Because you're helping these people along with their coaching.
Yeah. So and that's another benefit that I provide to people. I don't talk about it much, but when you've got 30,000 LinkedIn connections, I have connectivity. When people connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm for all intents and purposes, I'm giving them access to 30 million people, because my average connection probably has a minimum of 1,000 connections themselves. And I can get them into companies, even with people, because I don't know 27,000 of my 30,000 LinkedIn connections.
Correct.
That doesn't matter, because the dynamic of the job search is so different today. So many people have been through it, particularly in the last 10 years, that people are far more empathetic and receptive to having, a brief networking conversation. So I can make an introduction for a job seeker into an individual in a company that's of interest to them. And I've never met this person, but the fact is that, that person and I are connected. I tell them who I am, and I'm asking them to do a nice thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much more understanding today, with regard to that. And
well, not that, because you're running the network. So even if they haven't specifically met you, they see your face on the network. Yeah, so you can direct them in those ways, which would be a huge pool. And now, do you reach out to people through LinkedIn for yourself, for your own?
Yeah, I find job seekers on LinkedIn. Some of them have this open to work hashtag open to work insignia on their profiles. But I can usually tell by the way a profile is written as to whether or not they're in a job search. I won't spend a lot of time, looking at each one of these individually, but I can take a superficial look. And I'll invite them to one of my events. I'll just say, check out my website at NSENG.com, and they can decide for themselves, because the membership's free. I mean, I don't charge. Yeah,
because it gives you such a network of people to help with the coaching that you're doing.
Exactly,
it gives you the network by not charging. It's a brilliant method. No, that is kind. It's very kind of you to do. So everyone can do it, and then you can use the algorithms yourself to get to do the things you need to do to help the people that you need to help.
Yeah.
Because if you learn LinkedIn.
Yeah. Now stepping back a second, I have had a big advantage over a lot of entrepreneurs, aside from just, sticking a toe in the water first. Mm-hmm. But what I developed first was the community. I developed a networking group. Okay. And, I didn't make a penny for the first 2 years that I did this. Mm-hmm. Because I was just trying to help people, to start to have good conversations with me and with others in the group, so that we would build up, some critical mass in the organization. It then opened up the door particularly for my coaching business and other things that I developed. But developing the community first is very different from what most consultants or coaches do. They go all in on the coaching or the consulting and hope that they're a good salesperson to capture some clients, on the front end. And it can be a long and arduous process.
Yes. So
I had the credibility with my community because they had seen me, they felt they could trust me and knew what I had to offer. So
plus you'd also had a very successful career as it was. So you weren't needing every dollar that was being earned like some other people are doing. You built it out organically.
Exactly.
And that's the key to anything.
Yeah.
Is being able to do that, having the luxury to do that, which is that's I think it's great, Marty. It's brilliant what you've created. It really is.
It's been a lot of fun, and I get a lot of emails from people telling me that I've saved their marriage, or that they now can send their child to school. And it affects so many people in a household when one individual and sometimes both parents are unemployed, right? It puts so much stress on everybody, and the children feel it, and it affects and impacts a lot of really important decisions, like 401k money that people would hate to touch.
Yes.
But then, some people have to do it because of the length of time that they've been out, or, financial considerations.
Yeah. It's a wonderful what you're doing, Marty.
Well, thank you.
To help with the real part of it, because I want to get something for your social media too, ads. So please give me, like, in 5 or 6 sentences, why someone would come to you.
I am different than 99% of all the job search coaches that are in the industry, because I did not grow up in HR or talent acquisition. 90% of the job when anybody is in a job search is marketing. It's positioning, packaging, messaging, and targeting. I've made a living out of doing that for products and services. And of course, got very good at doing it for people in a job search. And because I've got the very strong writing skills along with the marketing strategy, I know how to help people to make themselves get the visibility, because the name of the game is visibility. How to make yourself more visible online, offline, and in person, so that you get characterized as somebody that companies need to be having conversations with.
And how do they find you, Marty?
The website is NSENG.com, stands for the North Shore Executive Networking Group. I've got a very active LinkedIn group for NSENG as well. I've got a YouTube channel. I've got over 30 different YouTube recordings on YouTube. It's YouTube, I think it's youtube.com/@Marty Gilbert. And of course, they can email me at martygilbert1@gmail.com or at mgilbert@nsenginc.com.
Marty, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I truly see how much you care about it. It's brilliant that you built a community before before doing the coaching so that you can actually, I mean, just the LinkedIn access, you guys, that he has, if you guys are understanding what he's saying, he's basically able to use LinkedIn to provide so many more opportunities than a standard person that's recruiting can do. And I completely see why. Our advertising companies primarily uses LinkedIn. So I literally do what he does.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what he's doing is very, very, very bright. But we appreciate your time, Marty. And God bless you for what you're doing and continue the great work.
Great. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate it. And for any of your folks that might be in a job search, you know, there's a way out and there's a faster way out. Please feel free to check out my website because I think there's some solutions there that might be able to help you.
I agree with you. Thank you.